Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about a confusing back and forth that now has occurred in the wake of the supremely confusing shadow docket order by the Supreme Court. This is in the case involving people being sent to third party countries, not their countries of origin, but other ones. And you'll recall that just a couple days ago, the judge who had presided over that case, Judge Murphy in Boston, he had ordered a certain degree of notice and opportunity to make their claims. And that was happening apparently on the plane, on the tarmac in Djibouti. And the Supreme Court entered a stay that was as obscure and opaque as anything they've ever done on the shadow docket. It couldn't get less because it just said, basically, we grant the remedy. This grant stays in place until the First Circuit hears the case and until we either hear it or decide not to hear it. In other words, says Sotomayor in really sort of impassioned dissent, these people are going to be subject to a regime of getting deported, say, to South Sudan, which is the country that's now in play and where 6 of them are on the threshold of when Murphy stopped the planes. And there's nothing that's going to happen to them. They're the ones who really get hurt here, not the government. Okay. After that, the plaintiffs, the lawyers for the 6 people who are midway between in Djibouti, not in South Sudan, go to the district court and say, you know what? The Supreme Court vacated or has stayed this first order you made, but you made a second order saying that the government has specifying how much time they had to give them and what kind of notice they had to give them. That should remain in place. That was a separate order. The court, it's unclear, but the court didn't seem to speak to it. So enter a new order, please, saying that that order remains in effect. And the judge said, I don't have to. That order remains in effect. It's a separate order. And just to recall the bidding a little bit, that's the order that he put in after it turned out that the U.S. was playing games with him. This was involving someone going to a third country, not South Sudan, but this was the gay hairdresser who had experienced persecution in Guatemala and then also Mexico. When he came up, he was tortured and made to pay ransom. And he had said, I don't want to go to Mexico. And the United States had told the court, and it turned out to just be false, that he had said he was okay with going to Mexico. It was at that point that the district court judge lowers the boom and does the subsequent preliminary injunction. Okay, so that's going to be their version of events. This is and this is what the judge said. I didn't. This is a separate order. My follow-up order that remains in place. The administration has gone berserk on this and issued an extremely obstreperous and irate, outraged motion to the Supreme Court. Outright defiance by this judge is ignoring your order. It's clear when you do a stay that also applies to the remedy that was issued in support of that order. And really, they're making him out to be just a complete lawless scofflaw, and with associated kind of PR, Stephen Miller saying there's going to be hell to pay in the Supreme Court, etc. And the tone of the filing indeed is really, really nasty and contemptuous of the district court judge, Judge Murphy. Now, what's happened here, it seems to me, is the Supreme Court was incredibly unclear about what it was doing. It could not have been more bare bones, and that was part of what Sotomayor was saying. But it also, I mean, it was really a kind of abysmal use, as bad as it gets, of the shadow docket, which can resolve cases, including important public cases like this, without briefs, without argument, and we don't know what the court is doing, and that is the soul of court action, is explanation, reason, etc. But we'll see what happens. It could be that the 6 of them absolutely take up the invitation of the administration to just hammer Murphy and really take him to task. To me, that seems inappropriate. It's a little hard to say because everything is so elliptical and unclear. But I don't think Murphy sees himself in any way as just defying the Supreme Court. Rather, he is, and it seems reasonable to me because everything is unspecified, saying, okay, this part still survives. It may not. It's certainly the case that when you enter, a Supreme Court enters an order about an order that the district court has entered, whatever remedy the district court has imposed goes by the boards also. The whole thing is stayed. You can't say, oh, okay, my order's out, but my remedy's in. But this is a more fine-grained or nuanced situation where there's a second order. So there's going to be a response, and it will probably be along the lines of, cool your jets, United States, here's what's happening. But it could be that the court views it that way and comes down hard, which would sort of add insult to injury, because as I mentioned before, one of the several ways in which this is a really unfortunate order by the U.S. Supreme Court is they don't have the judges back, which they really should. This judge was fairly restrained, and then he was jerked around by the administration, and it kind of would normally fall to the Supreme Court to have in mind the need to promote respect for lower court orders and the duty of candor. And that was one of the casualties of this complete bare bones shadow docket. So anyway, stay tuned. You've got the United States screaming from the rooftops about this complete defiant judge, and you'll have plaintiffs now answering it saying, no, it's not that. Nevertheless, I expect the court to probably go the administration's way and say this order as well, we mean to be suspended for now. But whether they will kind of come down hard from their Olympian perch and really beat up on the judge, that would be unfair, unjust, I think, and because the real problem here is their own opacity. And the judge couldn't be clear what they were saying. But that's the sort of mini drama that's now at play. The administration has many times, dozens of times, been on the receiving end of remonstrations from judges. You're being lawless, you're ignoring us, you're not being candid. And because they have been lawless and ignoring and not being candid, so now's their chance to come out and flex their muscles big time, and we'll see whether the Supreme Court indulges that effort. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.